Hello, game devs! In this video, we're going to talk about World of Goo and its prototype game, Tower of Goo. This inspirational game is developed by a company called 2D Boy and is a shining example of monetizing schoolwork into a $1 million idea, so stick around. Starting with the original genesis of the idea, let's look at the experimental gameplay project at Carnegie Mellon. The intent of this project was to provide an opportunity for students to rapidly prototype many different games, much like we do in game jams. So in this case, Tower of Goo was conceptualized over the course of 2 weeks, and it's a lovely little game. It has a clear goal, a way to experiment safely, and a quirky little physics puzzle system that really was satisfying to those people who love building little structures out there. And the little goo balls also made it very clear that the objects could be connected together and that those long strands between them would be remaining rigid, allows the player to create structures. The goal is to get as many balls as you can to the top pipe and to the top of the world as you can by using the least amount of building materials, all seen from kind of a 2D side perspective. Tower of Goo is a fantastic example of what a first playable might look like in the steps of game development. It clearly shows the mechanic has enough visuals and goals to it that there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. And it might be a little simple, but it's something that we can play and kind of hand off and get an idea. This might be the kind of thing I might expect a student to hand in at the end of like an intro to game design course. In World of Goo, on the other hand, we have a game that many students think that they're going to be able to create in their first semester. And, that's okay. Dream big. I think the phrase is shoot for the stars and you might hit the moon. And that's really important. So, don't feel too put out if you can't make it there. But this is a really good milestone or benchmark for you to look at. World of Goo, we have basically the same core mechanic, puzzle solving, stretching goo balls into structures that traverse an environment. However, for this game, the World of Goo game, I think you can clearly see how 2D Boy iterates on the same theme, creates more mechanics based on that same core experience. It layers on the fun with a narrative storyline that explains the presence of the goos and the many hazardous terrain elements. It keeps me just engaged enough and also gives our goos a little opportunity to have a collective quest for survival and gets me a little more emotionally involved in their survival. And it re-emphasizes a core gameplay mechanic, which is to save as many of the goos as possible. In the original game, interaction-wise, each ball had a static value that corresponded to its weight, amount of connections or legs that it have. It can be clicked on. Can they be repositioned after the first placement? Which pipe does it go through? The original one only had one pipe, but there were opportunities perhaps to do a different pipe. The only thing they really did in the new game was add more variety. They added additional hazards like saw blades and fires and explosions. They also added a few world objects that, like those balloons that lift up your structures. But the core experience is pretty identical, just refined. You have just different visual. You have 3 different colors of balls instead of 1. The audio and the visuals of this game are whimsical, and it gives the much stronger character with those beauty goos and ugly goos, those adorable little eyes. I'm surprised they didn't release this as a plushie. I missed opportunity, I guess, or maybe this is the new launch, and they're coming out with it soon. But these elements all reinforce the choice to conserve as many balls as possible so that they can escape, because we want emotionally to let them escape. Merely adding these googly eyes and those little noises made me more invested in saving those goos. And, I want to subject them to as few horrors of the world as possible while they're traversing it. And it brings that much needed connection into the world, which is kind of similar to the hit 1991 game Lemmings. Which kind of had a similar approach to gameplay with a different way to interact with the world. The later levels, also, everything's pixelated. It's amusing that the artwork of vector art is juxtaposed against this pixel artwork, and it works well to contrast the stages and the different levels of the world and the layers of complexity. Whether it is 1991 or today, humans are like cats sometimes. They're fascinated with the world of physics. Cats will push a glass of water off the table. Humans will try to build bridges over water, in this case, with as few resources as possible. And that kind of taps into that lizard brain experience and allows you to iterate on that experience. You can see this in toys too. I remember a marble toy, you put it on a track and it would do all sorts of maneuvers to reach its destination, if you weren't drawing tracks in the dirt or anything as well. And what we can learn in this game is that in game development, if you take a small core concept and iterate it over and over, you can flesh out a world that is very compelling, that's also easy to develop. One of the things you'll deal with in the game industry is like adding modes or basically feature creep. Some requests are reasonable, like when we were in X-Men Origins, Wolverine DS, we added a bunch of modes, which were just wiggling around the existing numbers that already worked. Like, how much is his regeneration? Does he have regeneration? How much health? Do we lose health? So occasionally there'll be things that are different, like, well, what if Wolverine stayed in his roll state and then he turned into a pinball and then you could play a pinball minigame? Those ideas are way bigger on impact and the scope. And so look out for that in the future. But some things are doable, and the things that are doable are the things that are integrated in the system that already exists. Additionally, you can explain a much bigger idea with a small demo. And if it was released today, I think we'd call Tower of Goo a Kickstarter demo or something like that. And that's one of the best things about going to school is it gets you the opportunity to work on something that could evolve into a future game. It's not the same for every university, so check your student agreements, but UConn and many other schools, especially public schools, they consider the homework that you create in class your intellectual property. So colleges can be a time for you to refine and to reflect your ideas into a smash hit. And if you work strategically through your 4 years, you probably be able to do something at the other end and make opportunities for yourself. I know that, for instance, there is a pitch competition coming up this May in the Connecticut area, which will help students fund their game ideas if you win with a little money, as well as with resources and mentorship. And those opportunities happen all the time. So check my Twitter feed if you aren't. You can check for those. Sometimes I post them there. What did you think of World of Goo, though? Any burning ideas that you've got going on? From my perspective, I think it's important to share your ideas and often as possible, because in the game industry, everyone has the idea. And at the end of the day, they're probably going to work on theirs rather than yours because, it's their idea. So, I wouldn't be too worried about sharing just the idea on the internet unless it's just so unique, but it's very rare that that's the case. So ideas are the first step, but the work we put into it makes our conception of a game unique. So go ahead and let me know. I'll see you in class.